Welcome to the YouTube channel, Intip Dunia. What else are we going to discuss today? Okay, let's get straight to the point. Did you know that cockroaches can live without their heads? When you imagine a cockroach, you might think of a creepy crawly insect that is hard to kill and also gross because they get into your food. You might have seen them scurry across the floor when you turned on the lights in a dark place like under the sink. Cockroaches are one of the most common household pests and can be found all around the world. To prevent this from happening, the scientists placed paper towels soaked in water in each container. There was also water in the bottom of the container in case the roaches needed to drink. Now that you know that there was water available for the roaches to drink, you might be wondering how they drank without a mouth. One of the females was observed rolling a piece of dog food across the container like a ball. One thing that you might not realize about insects is that they have a very different nervous system than humans. Insects have a nerve net instead of a brain. A nerve net is similar to a brain in the sense that it controls the insect's movements. If you think about it, they live their entire lives without getting sick or suffering from any illnesses. Also, if someone accidentally cuts off their head, they can live for at least a couple of weeks. However, the average lifespan of a cockroach is only 1 year. You can actually buy headless roaches in some Asian markets. If you're feeling brave, you should try putting an insect identification app on your phone. This way you can identify any insects that you find and learn a lot about them. Even if you don't want to get close enough to identify the bug, you can take a picture and the app will do the work for you. Typically, they don't make it past the egg stage due to predators and diseases. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Out of all of the eggs that are laid, only 1 in 10 make it to adulthood. Once they become adults, they are constantly fighting for food and a place to hide. If you've ever had roaches in your house before, you probably tried to kill them, or at least sweep them out the door. Even though roaches are tiny, they're strong. They can lift 10 times their own weight. This means that if you weigh 150 pounds, a roach could lift over 1,500 pounds. The strength of the roaches allows them to fight off predators and also helps them find food. However, it doesn't always help them live long lives. However, since a nerve net is basically a bunch of nerves in a cluster, there isn't one part that is considered the brain. Of the 4,000 species, only around 30 of them are found in the United States. However, they can actually be beneficial. Roaches are nature's recyclers and help break down dead plants and animals. They also help break down sewage and organic waste. Even though roaches are beneficial to the environment, most people would rather not have them living in their home. They can cause damage to your home and spread many types of bacteria. This makes them unsanitary and also potentially very dangerous. Some of the most common types of cockroaches in the US include the American cockroach, the German cockroach. Cockroaches aren't just found in the US, but can be found all over the world. They're mostly found in warm climates, but there are some cold climates where they can be found. However, they do better in warmer climates. So when a cockroach loses its head, it loses its nerve center, but it doesn't exactly feel pain like a human would. Insects don't have a lot of nerves in their bodies, which means that they don't feel pain like humans do. Another female was observed eating and regurgitating liquid food. She also had milk in her stomach, which meant that she produced milk. This was interesting because no one had ever seen a headless female cockroach produce milk. Male cockroaches produce milk from special glands that are located on their feet. When they produce milk, they spread it on their abdomens, and the females drink it. The scientists were unsure if the female in the experiment produced milk on her own, or if it was leftover milk from the male cockroaches that she was previously with. Unfortunately, neither of the females that ate the dog food survived. One stopped producing milk, and the other stopped moving her legs. Both eventually died. Well, insects don't drink through their mouths. Instead, they absorb water through their body. Insects also breathe through holes in their bodies instead of lungs. These holes are called spiracles, and they're located along the sides of their body. The spiracles are connected to a network of tubes that carry oxygen throughout the insect's body. So the lack of a mouth or head doesn't affect the cockroach's ability to breathe or drink. It does, however, affect their ability to eat. They can live both inside and outside of people's homes, and they typically prefer warmer climates. After a roach eats, they digest the food in their stomachs. The scientists check them every day to see if any of them died, but you'll never guess what happened next. None of the headless roaches died within the first week. The scientists continued to check on the roaches and they noticed that the headless females started to lay eggs, but the males didn't seem interested in mating. A few weeks after the experiment began, 2 of the headless females stopped laying eggs and started to look for food. They found some dog food and started eating it. Not only did they eat the food, but they actually chewed it. Their chewing sounds were described as squishing. However, after their heads were removed, the headless roaches weren't able to eat or digest food. Since they couldn't eat, the scientists fed the headless roaches liquid food made out of dog or puppy food. This ensured that they've got nutrition without having to chew or swallow. While most people try to get rid of these bugs as quickly as possible, if you were to see a headless cockroach, you might be even more grossed out. So can cockroaches actually live without their heads? And if so, how do they survive? Keep watching to find out. First, let's talk about why someone would want to cut off a cockroach's head. You might be thinking that this would happen by accident while someone was trying to kill the roach. Or maybe, you've seen horror movies where the main character gets their head cut off. But did you know that you can buy decapitated cockroaches at some Asian markets? These are usually canned and can be used as a delicacy in certain dishes. If you don't live near an Asian market, you can also order headless cockroaches online. But we won't tell anyone if you don't. Another reason someone might want to cut off a cockroach's head is for science. In 2016, researchers conducted an experiment to see how long a cockroach could live without its head. The experimenters didn't just want to see if a cockroach could live without a head, but they wanted to see if a cockroach could live without a head and still be able to mate. For their experiment, they used 30 male and 30 female American cockroaches, which are also known as the brown-banded cockroach. All of the roaches were kept in plastic containers, and half of the males and females had their heads removed. This means that there were 15 headless males and 15 headless females. When conducting this experiment, it's important to keep the roaches from drying out. If they dry out, they will die. In nature, roaches typically eat plants, dead animals, and other decomposing matter. With all of their basic needs taken care of, the roaches were left alone to do their own thing. After the roaches ate the dog food, they seemed to be healthier, so the scientists gave them more. Now that we've covered how the roaches drank, breathed, and ate without a head, let's talk about how they lived without a head. So now you know that insects don't feel pain, and they also don't feel emotions like fear. So a headless cockroach isn't scared of anything. The headless cockroaches in the experiment were placed in pairs. They were put in pairs so that the scientists could see if the headless cockroaches would attempt to mate. Sometimes the headless cockroaches would bump into each other and touch each other's antenna with their legs. However, none of the headless cockroaches attempted to mate. Some of you might be wondering if a cockroach can live longer than a year. You might be surprised to learn that there are around 4,000 species of cockroaches. Now that you know a lot about cockroaches, you might not want to go anywhere near them. So can a cockroach live without a head? The answer is yes. Thanks for watching. If you learned something new, give the video a like. What did you think about the headless cockroaches? Let me know in the comments below.